What were we doing 13 years ago? We were waiting for the National Stadium to be finished. It's now finished. What fills it? Taylor Swift, Coldplay, and Liverpool. Welcome to part 2 of the award-winning Yahoo Footballing Weekly podcast. Award-winning, right? Mm-hmm. How many are we going to say it every week? Again.
Until they give us a plug or something like that.
Until people say, enough already.
And the winner's t-shirt.
Yes. We've also the award-winning Neil Humphreys.
And the award-winning editor, Chia, and the award-winning guest, Daryl.
Hey! We're
all award winners.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to all of our wonderful listeners and viewers. We hope the year of the dragon. Now, there's so many jokes there about Lions coaches you could make, but I won't make any of them.
Okay.
We're going to be positive this week. Lots of positive.
Let's retry.
But before that, we've got to do the negative, which is Lionel Messi. Lots of response about that.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, it's been the talking point for the past 2 weeks in Asia football. Yeah.
I love the fact that even your mother got involved.
That's why
that makes me so happy.
My cousins were saying during our visits, like, hey, why do you talk about your mother? But anyway, I mean, Messi has been the talking point because he no-showed during the Hong Kong friendly, and obviously earned the wrath of Hong Kongers, and by that mention, mainland Chinese fans.
Which is never a good thing in the current climate.
No. And then the best thing is, or the worst thing, depending on your view, he flies to Japan the next day, and he plays in that the friendly for the next friendly one half of it.
I mean, there's got to be a term for that. That's got to be great geopolitical shithousery.
Yeah,
right?
Japan.
Like geopolitical shithousery.
And then you got immediately the furore starts again. So anyway, a lot of comments from viewers. We talked about it. We made a passing mention about it last week, but they were still talking about it. So got some fantastic comments. Brother Son F, this is a classic. Imagine going to a Taylor Swift concert without Taylor, only the dancers and the band for 2 hours. That's how people feel.
Perfect comment.
Yeah, perfect comment. That's how the fans in that stadium must have felt, right?
Yeah. But we've got a follow-up. Someone disagrees.
Someone defending Messi. Joey Tay says, Messi doesn't own anyone a living. Coach decides who to play. Stop being a loser.
Okay.
Where do you stand?
Okay, I'll go first. Yeah. The Hong Kong exhibition, very simply, was sold as a Lionel Messi exhibition.
Right. Yes.
It was not sold as an Inter Miami exhibition. So, to use his analogy, if it was the Rolling Stones, you pay good money to see the Rolling Stones, the band, the entity, meaning you can just about get away with Charlie Watts, rest in peace, the drummer, not being there because it's still the Rolling Stones.
That's true.
Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift.
Yes.
Lionel Messi is Lionel Messi. It was sold as a Lionel Messi
If Taylor
event.
Swift couldn't make it, she would have postponed that concert.
Correct. 100%. Yeah. So if he was injured, fine. It is a communication disaster. Yeah. All he had to do, work with the PR people, work with the organisers, do a meet and greet, do a lap of honour, give away some freebies, some shirts, some scarves, throw some crappy mementos into the crowd. That would have done. Take a few selfies. None of this would have happened. It was PR 101, how not to do it. It's completely Lionel Messi's fault, the camp's fault, the PR team's fault, the comms fault. It was just bad communications from start to finish.
How do you feel?
I think it's the fault of Inter Miami's communications team who were not aware of the situation, and maybe they thought that the name Inter Miami itself or the players would be enough to pull off this stunt. Yeah. Because if Messi was not going to be there, like nobody would turn up or nobody would pay the crazy prices for the tickets. So of course the fans will be upset and they have every right to complain and ask for a refund. And I think they did get a 50%, refund, 50%. Right? 50%. Yeah. So at least if you had done that at the start, if you had said, okay, Messi can't play, it's 2 or 3 days before the game and then we're going to offer you the refund and then you can buy it back at 50%, maybe that would have worked or something. But then now the shit has really hit the fan, and then now they have to offer like 50% off because people were pissed, right? You came there to see Messi and he's not there.
Totally.
I mean, DeAndre Yedlin is fine, but the rest of them, like nobody knows
50%. That's crippling. That's crippling because the margins on these events are very slim anyway because you're paying for the event, the venue, the staff. People have lost a lot of money on this.
Oh, I'm sure. So let this be a lesson for clubs who wants to come to Asia and not make some quick bucks.
Correct.
Because,
100%.
Don't overestimate your global brand. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, you're not like Liverpool, you're not like Manchester United, you're not like even Tottenham or Arsenal, where you can rely on the brand name, the club's illustrious history.
Yeah.
You know, after even if let's say Salah is injured for the game, or Rashford, or even Harry Kane or Son Heung-min is out for the game, they can just about manage to continue playing the game, and the fans will still be satisfied because they are watching a club. The brand name, they are more connected with the brand name rather than the player. Inter Miami have been on the scene for less than 10 years. They've been just been formed by David Beckham's consortium.
Yeah.
I think about less than 5 years, fewer than 5 years. And you know, they don't have a global brand except Messi. And now they have Suarez, but Suarez is like controversial character anyway. And you cannot rely on Messi missing the thing, and you still don't communicate well, as you say, and then don't be apologetic and just shrug it off, and you know, the coach just shrug it off and just go. It's not gonna cut it with fans in Asia who are paying a lot of money for it, and they really, if you know Asians, they always want their money's worth of things.
Of course.
100%.
Yeah, you can't do it. You can't do it like that.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. These global sports brands have got to stop treating Asians like gullible, fickle
They cannot.
ATM machines. All right, those days are done. Asians are fighting back. They're not standing up for this crap anymore.
Yeah.
And long may it continue.
Oh yeah.
You fired me up now. I like that one. Good. What else have we got?
Well, we also talk about, you know, the usual why Singapore is not doing well, and this and coaches and this and where. So Rex, who say we are content being somewhere in many spots in the SEA Games somewhere. We have never got on the level at the SEA Games. How can we be a little red dot that needs to punch above our weight? Uruguay does it, Paraguay does it, Switzerland does it. Palestine, my God, where do they even train? I'm sure there are lots more examples. Has our kids' ability to use their limbs more than their thumbs? So, which means that, you know,
Kids
e-games.
gaming.
yeah, that's the situation in Singapore. I feel. I mean, that's why we are trying to find a new solution. I think that all the sports associations are finding a new solutions to convince the parents, the young sportsmen to, you know, play a sport, and, you know, hopefully be very good at it so that you can represent the national team. That's the reality of our small nation, and we do have a lot of issues because of that. And yeah, I agree. We can't say we need to punch above our weight and that something will happen. You really need to build the thing, and it takes a very long process to build that kind of base before we can even think about punching above our weight.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, interesting what Daryl thinks. But one thing I'll touch on that you said, we're a small nation. Can we punch above our weight? I do think at some point we've got to stop using excuses, which I think he alludes to with Palestine and, you know, Paraguay and so on, right? At some point we have to ask the existential question again, do Singaporeans even really want to play? Football. Is the collective will to play football there at the numbers required at scale to make us compete at a decent level? To use the African Cup of Nations example, Ivory Coast were in a civil war 13 years ago. A civil war. What were we doing 13 years ago? We were waiting for the national stadium to be finished. It's now finished. What fills it? Taylor Swift, Coldplay, and Liverpool. So occasionally. So that's our priorities. So I do sometimes wonder, we can talk about size, physicality, diet, nutrition, training, camps that we're going to get to. Is the collective will there in Singapore for us to even compete at that SEA Games level?
You look at the comments we get whenever we talk about Singapore football. It's largely derogatory and largely negative. So there's the appetite for change in football. Yes, there's a bunch of people who are still
and we love them.
And we love them, but the reality is that if you want to see the whole population, some people have moved on even beyond sports. There are a lot of other things like music and arts which people are more interested in than sports.
Yeah. What do you think, Daryl?
Yeah, I think like Singapore is a great place. We have great facilities, but we host the F1, but we don't have a Singaporean participating in the F1.
We can always host the F1.
Yeah, we can host a World Cup match, but You won't have a team at the World Cup. It's just difficult to see like football really progressing to the stage or the level that we want it to be, because maybe we don't have the numbers that are really playing the game, or those that are good enough. And even if they are good enough, then they always reach that critical point at 16, 18 years old, and then they have to do national service, continue on their studies, and then they kind of drop out of the game professionally or at a higher level, and then they drop back to playing NFL football or just on weekends only. Because so it'll be interesting to see, like, now we have unleashed the raw at so many age levels, but once 10 years down the road, where will all these players be? Or even when we had the Youth Olympic Games in 2010 or something, was it?
We had a bunch
what happened to those players? Like now it's been 14 years. Like, where are they now?
I think
are they working regular jobs?
Only 2 or 3 went to the Premier League itself.
Really? Yeah, you see, so by that, if maybe had 20 boys back then in 2010, and now only 2 of them are in the league, so maybe only 1 will make the national team, for example. So, like, we need so much more players playing, but also willing to want to be professional players, whether is it in SPL or whether is it overseas. And then hopefully they are good enough for the national team, because if we don't have them playing, then how? And, as parents, they also have to really consider, will they encourage the kids to pursue, or is it just, okay, son or daughter, you go on and play till you're 16, 18, but after that you really have to focus on like uni and national service, and then like get a good job, and then you work, and then you just play on weekends. If every parent thinks that way, then don't criticize the club, don't criticize FAS too much when things go bad, because we're not giving enough players the chance, or not really encouraging it.
Which ties into the next comment. Because there's still a lack of professionalism, there's still a lack of collective will, which therefore leads very nicely to the next comment, if you want to have a look at it. Sydney's one, right?
So Sydney Grongs 8467. Thank you for this. As always, loving this show and bringing conversations on SG football.
Thank you.
Thanks for a compliment. So his thing is talking about because we just hired a new Japanese coach as our head coach. Again. Yep. So I don't mean to sound against anyone's view, but language barrier to me is a lower level problem, as we have bigger problems with the national team. We need the best coach regardless of language. And yes, it's great and beneficial if they can verbally communicate with the players. Do you think that Ogura's English language abilities will really make an impact? This sounds like I'm saying Korea has Klinsmann, so it doesn't matter if the coach can speak the local language. He can speak the local. I understand we don't have the capacity to bring in a top-tier coach, but I don't know if language has that huge of an impact when there are more fundamental issues with the national team.
In this case, I think it does. Yes. I actually do think language is vital. He makes a very good point, Sydney. Thank you for that. But in the cases you mentioned, just use South Korea as an example, you're dealing with elite athletes, many of whom play at the highest levels of the game in various leagues around the world. Right. Singapore doesn't have that. You can bring in an elite manager to an elite group of players and he doesn't even speak. But he just says, you go there, you go there, you go there.
That's
and there have been many examples of this because they play at the highest level every week. It's just a basic bringing together of certain skill sets, lineups. They're smart enough, experienced enough, professional enough to know what to do. As any elite player says, if you're bringing an international manager to England, and that English manager is telling them how to play, they shouldn't be picked for England, right? They know that. It's just fine-tuning. So you can have a Capello or you can have an Ancelotti at Real Madrid and so on and so on. We're not there in Singapore. Nope. Yeah. We don't even have the fundamentals in place. Communication is everything. They need to be able to communicate with these guys, whether it's English or Malay or Singlish, it doesn't matter. But they need to be able to communicate at the most basic training ground level. Until we have the fundamentals in place, we are not in a position where communication could be second or third in our priorities. It's number one for me.
Yeah. Like I said a few weeks before, why add this problem of language when you already have a host of fundamental problems to think about? Yeah. You can easily have somebody speak English, communicate well, and you don't have this problem. You can focus on the other problems that are mired, that the Singapore football is mired in. But why do you need to add a coach who can't speak, who can't communicate well? That's another problem for you to face. Yeah.
What do you think, Dal?
Yeah, I think definitely communication is like the number one thing or the most basic thing you need to have there. So if the new coach Ogura can speak English, then good. That we have conquered at least one issue, and now we can move on to the tactics or the formation or what does he want from the players. And like South Korea, they have Klinsmann, right? But I understand like Klinsmann maybe doesn't really speak the language. He doesn't even live in Seoul or something like that. He still stays in the US. He flies over.
The current controversies is that when they lose, he still smiles when he shakes hands with the opponents. And Koreans are the most intense people around Asia. They look at this, they treat it as an insult. They treat it as an affront that
loss of face.
That Klinsmann is still smiling when they lost. And that's a problem.
Because he said it's a bit of a holiday as well, I think, isn't it? He jets in, takes the money, has the Korean
he
food,
doesn't stay
goes
in
back.
Korea. That's another issue.
So it doesn't help, but you see, they can still bring in an international manager, but they have the players good enough to at least get them to the knockout rounds. But of course, in the end, it's unlikely that you will win like a trophy.
That's right.
We're still a long, long way to go from the likes of Jordan. Congratulations to Jordan. Just won, got to the final, with Qatar. And of course, Qatar won. But great achievement from Jordan because they're closer to the kind of team we're hoping to aspire to be in the FIFA
87th
rankings.
rank in the world only. So overachieved by going into the final. Beating South Korea in the process, 2-0 in the semi-final. And that was very convincingly. But I also feel that this Asian Cup, you saw Australia, Japan, South Korea, Saudi Arabia. These four names are perennial World Cup qualifiers. And all of them lost, didn't win. And it's the second tier of Asian teams. Qatar, Jordan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, first time on the scenes and made it all the way to the quarterfinals. These teams are already closing in. And they are making the gap even further from the third tier, which is our Southeast Asia teams, Thailand, Malaysia,
but even
Indonesia,
then, Thailand
and
did
Vietnam.
well.
Malaysia got a good result, decently well, but everybody is improving. That is the reality of international football. You cannot stay stagnant like Singapore did after the Goal 2010 the fiasco. You can say the fiasco. They didn't do it, but they stood still after Goal 2010, and that is why we are currently have so many fundamental issues. We should have continued to improve even after we couldn't qualify for Goal 2010, and that's the reality. Everybody is continually improving.
Could not agree more, my friend. Could not agree more. Because the point you make is a really good one. It's not rocket science. It's literally sports science. The middle tier nations worked on their sports science, their training facilities, their nutrition, their diet. We keep talking about Jordan's physicality. They looked enormous. They looked muscular. They looked strong. So everything is changing amongst those middle tier nations. And even Thailand, and particularly Malaysia, Philippines, they're trying to bridge that gap. They're not quite there yet, but they're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And we seem to be falling even further behind.
Should we do this? Should we do that? Should we get our heritage players? Should we not? You're still deciding, and people are just jumping over you already.
Nathan Mao will say this.
Nathan Mao. But we're going to make it positive. We're going to finish on a positive note. Two key developments that you wrote about. You can read Han Keong's column on the Yahoo website. Two very positive developments, I think, for Singapore football this week.
So the first one is the Singapore Premier League season is going to be changed a bit. So it starts in May this year instead of February. Usually we start at the end of February. And it's going to go all the way until May next year. It's a full season that aligns with the AFC football calendar. So when you play the Asian Champions League, it goes on along the season. And we used to play Singapore Cup matches after the end of the league season. But now it's going to be along it's like a normal European kind of season.
As it should be.
As it should be. So that is one. It's going to be. It will take a bit of transition. 2 years, I think, 2 seasons before it completes the transition. So in the interim, there's going to be a warm-up tournament that's going to start at the end of this month, and it's just to keep the players fit. Because now they ended their season in December. And it is now until May before their first league match. So in between, they hold a mini tournament just to keep them fit, and also for the March World Cup qualifiers for the national team players. So that is the big change in the Premier League. The second major change is the introduction of the first ever Singapore Youth League.
Yep.
So it's going to have about 200 teams, youth teams from all over Singapore, playing constant football for almost for the entire season, almost a whole entire year. And the hope is that this was now the SPL teams don't have an excuse of saying, we don't know where to scout for our youth talents. This Singapore Youth League is right there. They open up for the SPL clubs to go and scout for talents and see whether I want to bring them into their own youth teams or not.
Yep.
So I think this is a great move. About time that we have this age group youth league. And those two are quite positive developments for local football.
Perfectly summarized. And I'm gonna throw down the gauntlet right now. I'm gonna throw down the gauntlet and say our armchair critics, our armchair warriors, keyboard warriors, always quick to take on Singapore football. Well, you can't this time. Nope. You said there were not enough pathways. I'm always going on about pathways. Now there's a pathway. As you said, Singapore Youth League. Boys and girls. Every age group from under 8s up to under 17s. So my question is, are you going to let your kids play? Are you going to go down and support them? Are you going to let them have the time needed away from studies, tuition, to take part in this season-long tournament?
Yep.
If they show potential, are you going to let them follow through that pathway all the way up to maybe age group levels, Premier League level, and so on? You wanted a grassroots tournament. You wanted a greater impetus from the Football Association of Singapore, Unleash the Roar. They've all come together to create this first ever national project. It's up to you. No more whining. Let your kids play.
Yep, the ball is in your court, literally.
Yeah.
And I think this is the best development of the Unleash the Roar right now.
I agree.
I think this if they have the will to continuously allow this youth league to carry on, I hope it doesn't end in about 3 years. Please don't.
But it will if no one takes part. It will if there's no support, kids, no infrastructure. Just to add to your point, great idea, great initiative, but you need to go the next step. They need good coaches.
They need
They need good pitches. They need good changing rooms. We've heard the horror stories about the women changing in the corridors. So good start. But let's keep going.
They also need good PR to sell it to all the parents and all the armchair critics that, here it is.
Because the key issue with all parents, but particularly our Kiasu parents, as we've said many times, it's not convincing kids to play. It's convincing parents they can still study.
Yeah.
You're not going to make any Kiasu parent stop their kid from studying. So stop pretending. It's not can your kid play, it's can your kid also study as well. Convince them they can do that, and we might have a bit of a chance.
Would you send your kids to play in this Singapore Youth League if you ever have a kid?
Definitely.
Well, hurry up. Recently married. Come on and get some kids going. We've got a nice project now.
On the way.
Yeah, he's on the way to Singapore. What do you think? Good idea?
I think it's a fantastic idea to have the youth league and all these kids can play, and they can play through the age groups, right? From under 8 all the way until under 17.
That's right.
And then this is the way, the pathway. There's a route for them to progress and hopefully make it as future football players for Singapore.
Yeah. And the last point about the pre-season tournament that they're going to play, also a great idea, because what is the fundamental purpose of any national league? It should be to service and support the national team. This will help the players prepare for their upcoming games. Is it China? Against China, the qualifiers. So they've put this tournament in place as a feeder service almost for the national team. That's exactly what we want.
That's the interim thing. I think. Yeah. So also tied through the long break.
Yeah, of course.
Season.
Yeah, great ideas.
So really, I feel that Singapore Premier League. Okay, now that it's going to be a long season, it's much longer than before. I do fear about the young Lions though.
Right. Good point.
Young Lions, they already struggle whenever midway through the season they start losing how many matches in a row. Can those youngsters last through the full season. So that is my question.
But it's good in a way because then it's make or break.
Yeah.
You try to. It's going to be almost May to May, right? It's almost a year-long season.
True.
Let's see.
Yeah.
If they can't, then really the concept, the project is out of excuses.
Yeah, out of excuses.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and really SPL clubs also running out of excuses. They keep on saying that, we don't know where to find, like I said before, they don't know where to find the youngsters. They can't prepare well for the season. Now you have the warm-up tournament, you have a long season to prepare. And then you have the youth league
with 6 age groups, boys and girls.
Age groups from where it's up to you to create enough
to go and
scouts to go and
these players,
to go and find them. They don't have any excuses anymore in order to make their club a professionally run club.
Couldn't agree more. Positive way to end this podcast.
Absolutely.
No more excuses to let your kids play. No more excuses not to find players for your teams.
That's right.
What do you guys think? Is this a positive turning point for Singapore football? Send your comments to
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on Twitter, Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
I feel good this week. Yeah. It's nice to feel on a high, right?
Yeah.
We don't often do that.
When I'm writing the news, I'm like, this is good.
It's a good story. Read his story on Yahoo. It's a good story to finish on. Very
Unleash
positive.
the dragon.
Unleash the dragon in the
Raw
year of the
dragon,
Raw.
whatever.
Award-winning podcast leading to award-winning football. Is that the ambition? Is that what we're going for?
That is what we hope to do.
All right, folks. Brilliant. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for watching. Keep comments coming in and we'll see you again. Same time, same place next week. Take care, guys.